to be. Hey, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song? Down the lane I walk with my sweet Mary.
Remember, Roger Whittaker's all-new collection is not in stores.
I'll be loving you.
Stay tuned to order.
Always.
To order, call toll-free 1-800-257-1257 to save all COD charges and pay only $12.98 for records or cassettes or $16.98 for compact disc, plus $3 shipping. Use your credit card or send check or money order to Roger Whittaker, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, to save all COD charges, send check or money order or use your credit card.
This is CNN.
Another case for Dr. Jack Kevorkian, counseling a woman with multiple sclerosis on how to commit suicide. Will he face additional criminal charges?
Upheaval in the real estate market. The world's biggest land developer seeks bankruptcy protection. What's the effect of Olympia and York's action?
And he says he'll use his business acumen to get the country back on its feet. How does H. Ross Perot do business? We'll take a closer look.
This is The World Today with Catherine Crier at the CNN Center and Frank Sesno in Washington.
Thanks for joining us. We begin in Michigan, where Dr. Jack Kevorkian, the advocate of mercy killing, whom some have named Dr. Death, has lent his controversial expertise to yet another person seeking to end her life. In Clawson, Michigan, 52-year-old Susan Williams, a blind and incapacitated victim of multiple sclerosis, was found dead on her back, a canister of carbon monoxide at her side, a mask on her face, the hissing sound of the gas still audible. Kevorkian was in the home along with some family members at the time of the suicide. He has been free on bond since last fall, when his attorney told a judge Kevorkian would not assist in any more suicides. Jeffrey Feiger says Mrs. Williams put on the mask herself, and Kevorkian counseled but did not assist.
Dr. Kevorkian will not cooperate in any further prosecution of him. If he is jailed, he will refuse to eat. He will starve himself in prison, and in effect, you can count on him ending his life in prison if he is in prison for something that is not a crime in this state, that is an act of compassion, reason, and thoroughly medical in nature.
Kevorkian faces murder charges for helping two women kill themselves last year. He has not been arrested in this most recent case. Friends of Mrs. Williams are quoted as saying she had deteriorated recently and lost her dignity. The pro-euthanasia Hemlock Society, however, condemned this suicide, saying Kevorkian's methods are, quote, open to abuse because there are no ground rules and no criteria.
One of the Los Angeles police officers accused in the beating of Rodney King is going to have to stand trial again. A judge in Los Angeles ruled today that Officer Lawrence Powell should be retried on one unresolved count. In the original trial, the jury could not agree on whether Powell was guilty of using excessive force under the color of authority. CNN's Ann McDermott reports on how the people of Los Angeles are reacting to the judge's decision.
Little more than 2 weeks ago, people gathered at the Crimson Tonsorial barbershop to listen to the Rodney King verdict. In the violence that followed the acquittal of the officers who beat King, the shop was burned to the ground. And some feared that kind of violence could erupt again if the judge in the case decided not to retry Officer Lawrence Powell on the one charge jurors couldn't agree on. But the officer will go on trial again, much to the relief of many in the community.
We would like to see justice come to a head so that we can see that the judicial system hasn't totally failed us.
Whether you wear the color blue, or you wear the color gray, or you're black, or you're white, or you're green, don't have the right to go about beating innocent citizens.
So I'm hoping and praying that we'll all be able to come together, and the American system of justice will not fail us.
At a news conference announcing a unity meeting between rival gangs in Los Angeles, young people were cynical about whether Powell would actually get the justice they believed he deserved.
We're not caught up with the rhetoric of the justice system because we know the justice system don't even understand and don't want to understand. It's unjust.
But Police Chief Darrell Gates indicated justice would prevail.
I think it was a decision that a very fine judge made. I'm not going to quarrel with it one way or the other.
And City Council members expressed satisfaction with the judge's decision to retry.
In the case of Officer Powell, he is the officer who was seen most often striking Rodney King.
But some wondered if Powell would get a fair trial.
I would hope so, yes. But it would be hard.
Others, though, thought it would not be hard. People who felt there could only be one outcome, a guilty verdict. Ann McDermott, CNN, Los Angeles.
A Georgia woman who says she has saved hundreds of children from abusive parents has been acquitted on charges of kidnapping and cruelty to minors. The jury found Faye Yeager not guilty on all 4 counts, deliberating 3 hours following a 3-week trial. She was accused of mistreating children in an underground network she set up to help them escape from allegedly abusive fathers.
One of the world's biggest property developers is in big trouble. Check the skylines of New York, London, Toronto. You'll see the work of Olympia and York. Ahead on The World Today, we'll look at how far the company has fallen. And we'll check into a public housing project where the residents are in control.
American Airlines leads the way in bringing value back to business travel. With the Anytime Fare, save at least 38% off the full coach fare. Available on any domestic flight. Any day. Anytime you fly, with no advance purchase required. This is not a sale. It's part of a new way of doing business from American Airlines, bringing value back to air travel.
This year, Kraft is helping to feed our athletes as they train for the 1992 U.S. Olympic team. Because we know after a hard day's work, there's nothing better than coming home to a good meal. Kraft, setting the training table for the 1992 U.S. Olympic team. Get a USA Basketball Dream Team poster from Kraft. See Sunday's paper.
So you're shopping at Frank's for great spring values.
Uh-huh. At Frank's, we always spend less money on quality flowers, shrubs.
But what we really like are the great gardening tips.
Less money.
Great tips.
Visit Frank's and make watering fast and hassle-free with Gardena Quick Connectors. Now 99 cents and up on the complete line of attachments. And in the backyard or at the beach, protect yourself from the wind and sun with Portashade Plus. Hurry to Frank's and get $10 off.
Beautiful things begin at Frank's.
Great tips.
Frank's Nursery and Craft.
Big news. All Goodyear Eagles are on sale now. Save big on every Goodyear Eagle Performance Radial. Act fast and you'll see why we say the best tires in the world and in your neighborhood have Goodyear written all over them.
This new Fantastic cuts through grease without leaving a film. So, thanks to Fantastic, my kitchen looks like new. Wish I could say the same about my refrigerator. When did I buy a lime? That used to be a head of lettuce. No grease, no film, new Fantastic.
Prices were lowered on 3 of the world's major stock exchanges today, following the news that the world's largest developer is filing for bankruptcy protection from some of its creditors. The Olympia and York company said it is struggling to restructure more than $18 billion in debt. Financial observers say the move shows the severity of the worldwide recession. More on the story from CNN's Rob Reynolds in London.
Everything Olympia and York did was big. The New York Financial Center, one of the biggest projects in Manhattan. 14 million feet of office space in Toronto and other Canadian cities, and London's Canary Wharf, the biggest development in Europe. In the 1980s, Olympia and York became the biggest property developer in the world. And on Thursday, it became the biggest company ever to file for bankruptcy protection. An executive tried to put a happy face on the portrait of corporate chaos.
This is the end of the beginning of a great new era for Olympia and York. This has established a process by which we can have an orderly discussion with lenders on the long-term restructuring plan without the need to continue to work on day-to-day fires.
The company owes 91 banks over $12 billion. The insolvency filing in Toronto and New York will protect the company's Canadian parent corporation. The action will not have any immediate short-term effect on Olympia and York's U.S. and British properties. But these two have piled up mountains of debt. Olympia and York is a victim of a severe worldwide property recession. 40 of the 50 stories in the massive Canary Wharf building in London's Docklands are vacant. Many of the tenants who have moved in are paying bargain rates. Stock markets responded as they usually do to bad news of this magnitude. The Tokyo and London exchanges took a nosedive. But in London's East End, in the grim neighborhoods these glittering towers of glass and chrome were supposed to revitalize, there's not a lot of sympathy for corporate giants fallen on hard times.
I can't see the ordinary people that are getting a lot out of it. Not the locals, anyway. We've not gained a lot from it, except that we are underneath it all the time. And we do virtually live underneath that building.
Canary Wharf was once a symbol for the spirit of the 80s, the Thatcher boom years when the future promised unlimited growth. Now, the pride and promise of those years is looking as empty as the giant structures themselves. Rob Reynolds, CNN, London.
And Exxon USA says it's cutting its workforce by at least 1,000 jobs. The cuts involve salaried workers, including managers. The company says it wants to improve efficiency and competitiveness. The cuts come 2 weeks after the company announced record profits.
President Bush is off on a 3-day campaign tour. He started with a $1,000 a plate fundraiser in Pittsburgh. Mr. Bush then toured the city's depressed Hill section, where some protesters denounced his economic policies, but community leaders took the chance to tell the president some of the area's needs. Speaker after speaker pleaded for jobs for the community rather than just tougher law enforcement. Residents are key to solving the problems of inner cities, so we'll look at a solution. It's been shown that given support and opportunity, many will dedicate themselves to making their neighborhoods better places to live. Chicago's Cabrini Green Housing Project is an example of that dedication and what it can accomplish. CNN's Jeff Flock reports.
This is one public housing building in Chicago. This is another. This is where they get their mail in this building. This is where they get it in this one. This is the front door of one, the front door of the other.
The people's in there, if they work together, it can happen. What's happened here can happen there. But you gotta want it to happen.
What happened is that the folks who live at the 1230 Burling Street building in the notorious Cabrini Green Housing Project in Chicago now officially control their own destiny.
It has been signed.
After a year-long experiment, they now have a contract to manage their own building. And if appearances are any indication, they are doing a pretty good job.
We are much tougher on each other than the housing authority ever could be because again, it's our community, it's our home, it's our neighborhood.
But turning a building over to its residents in a place as rough as Cabrini Green took some courage.
We used to have a workshop, and we would hear the guns go off, and we would all hit the floor and with our trainer, Miss Gilkey, and we would get under the table, and then when the shooting stopped, we would get back up and start into our workshop again, and then if some more shooting, back on the floor, you know.
But they persevered, and it's working here, though some experts say it can't work everywhere.
Tenant management, that's fine, but tenant management by itself cannot solve the problem of public housing.
This tenant management is for any color. So if you can make it here, you can pave it all over.
Not all at once, maybe, just one step, one building at a time. I'm Jeff Flock, CNN, in Chicago.
Out of Connecticut now, a stark snapshot of the American welfare system. It's about 20-year-old Sandra Rosado, who through a part-time job in high school was able to bank nearly $5,000. The money, she thought, was her ticket to college and out of poverty. The problem is that $5,000 in savings rendered her mother ineligible for the welfare benefits she had been receiving. Young Sandra was told to spend the money in order to protect the family's future welfare status. And her mother was told to repay more than $9,300 in benefits received during that ineligible period.
Cleaning up the toxic chemicals once designed to clean our clothes. We'll have that story when we return. And on the people bomb, one of the world's most remote nations, where people are too often forced to accept early death among their own children.
What does it take to succeed in business today? Some people say a lucky break. Other people say could be connections. Or perhaps even being in the right place at the right time. Well, luck might have something to do with it. But anybody who's in business today will tell you it takes more to compete and to be successful. You need help from the experts, and that's exactly what you get from Business Week. Our experts are here, digging to the heart of the issues, giving you clear, objective reporting, plus the analysis you need. I'd like you to meet Steve Shepard, our editor-in-chief.
In today's world, there's no such thing as an isolated event. Every day, all around the world, things happen that affect our business and personal lives. From management and industry and finance to marketing, technology, and education, Business Week covers it all, from 25 news bureaus worldwide, more than any other business magazine. That's why Business Week does more than report. We interpret, analyze, tell you what the news means to you in time to make sound business decisions.
If you want to succeed in today's business world, you've got to keep up and act fast. Subscribe to Business Week right now. You'll be an excellent company.
Subscribe to Business Week today. Get your business news direct from the experts and save 64% off the cover price. You'll get 28 issues for only $24.95, just 89 cents an issue. And if you call now, you'll get the compact data bank free with your paid subscription. More than a calculator, the data bank doubles as a digital clock and also stores all your important phone numbers. To get the business information you need to succeed, call 1-800-241-2300. You'll get 28 issues of Business Week delivered to your home or office for just $24.95, and the data bank is free. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. That number again is 1-800-241-2300. Call for your subscription today. 1-800-241-2300.
Toxic waste, a modern worry, a modern byproduct of society, and its causes are many. One contaminant of groundwater stems from industrial solvents used to cut grease. In today's Science Report, Ann Kellen looks at new research into eliminating the substance.
Cleaning the engines of planes like this is not an easy task. Industries, including the military, use chlorinated solvents called TCEs and PCEs that cut through grease. Many dry cleaners have used TCEs and PCEs to clean clothes. But once we're done with them, these beloved solvents become hazardous waste. Researchers say only 5 gallons seeping into the soil can contaminate many square miles of groundwater. Scientists estimate over 1 million Americans are drinking that water, now suspected of causing cancer. Agricultural engineers at Cornell University say they're science's version of Ghostbusters. With this machine called a bioreactor, they bust up toxic molecules so that contaminated water becomes safe enough to drink.
This is really synthetic contaminated groundwater.
To show you how it works, this water has been contaminated with those toxic solvents, TCE, or trichloroethylene, and PCE, or tetrachloroethylene. Both compounds contain atoms of chlorine. The first stage of molecule busting is to strip away some of the chlorine atoms.
The purpose of this first stage is to take all of the chlorines off this big compound down to one chlorine.
In stage 1, scientists load up the bioreactor with live bacteria. The contaminated water is cycled through. The bacteria eat away some, but not all, of the chlorine atoms. These particular bacteria can only do so much.
For some reason, when it gets to one chlorine, it almost stops. And it just says, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Unfortunately, what's left at this stage is worse than the original solution. These 1-chlorine molecules, called vinyl chlorides, are more poisonous and dangerous than the PCEs and TCEs. So the molecule busters enter stage 2. The bioreactor is loaded with another kind of bacteria. Fed oxygen and methane, the vinyl chlorides are doomed. Filter through these new bacteria, they bust apart those vinyl chlorides, breaking them down into table salt, carbon dioxide, and water, safe enough to drink.
To get the vinyl chloride from several thousand parts per billion down to the drinking water standard would be in the order of 3 or 4 hours.
Jules says this bioreactor technology is portable and can be trucked to contaminated areas. Testing with a similar bioreactor will start later this year at the Savannah River Complex, a military weapons facility in South Carolina. While this process is still being studied, Jules believes the cost competes with existing technologies. They're optimistic this molecule-busting approach will eventually save money and lives. Ann Kellen reporting for CNN.
Science and Technology Today is brought to you by the people at AT&T. AT&T, the right choice.
Small businesses come in many sizes. And because they do, we've created the AT&T Partners in Business program, a choice of savings plans for all sorts of small companies. You can get discounts on the numbers you call most, or the area code, or the country you call most. AT&T Partners in Business. Choices, because one size does not fit all. Call us.
Tonight, stopping AIDS and other diseases in school. Are free condoms the answer? Washington Mayor Sharon Pratt Kelly and former Education Secretary Bill Bennett meet head-to-head in CNN's Crossfire, 7:30 Eastern tonight.
Mary Brody won't feel the tiny lump in her breast for another 2 years, but she'll discover it tomorrow after her first mammogram, thanks in part to a new X-ray film created by DuPont that makes it safer to start mammography early. And for Mary, early detection means a 2-year head start on the rest of her life. At DuPont, we make the things that make a difference.
Many treatable diseases are just inconveniences for some people, but in places like Ethiopia and Nepal, they're killers. And too often the victims are babies. As the babies die, the parents rush to give birth again and again. CNN's Larry Lamott continues our series, The People Bomb, with a look at this life and death cycle in Nepal.
It is cloaked by Nepal's majesty, hidden behind voices rising from tender faces. Disguised by loving embraces. It is Nepal's grim truth. Too many children are dying here, more than 350 every day.
If a jumbo jet were to crash in the Himalayas, carrying 350 people, it would make headline news. But these children die silently.
Hindu villagers bring their dead babies to places like this, where two rivers meet. They bury them along the riverbank, leaving behind their clothes as markers, soon to be washed away. The river is a 90-minute walk from Gorkha, the mountain village where Donna Kumari gave birth to 10 children. Two of her first 4 died, and later a third. What happened after that is the stunning component in the people bomb. In developing countries, when too many children die, the population rises.
Because some of my children had died, I felt I could not stop having children. There was no guarantee that the ones I had would live. I needed many children so they could help me in my old age. It's like security. I did look for medical help, but because I did not have any money, I really could not afford to take them. And clinics were far away. That's why my children died.
I felt that
This is life. Not everybody born lives. Maybe even God did not want them to live very long. So we had more children, as many as God wanted us to have.
In Nepal, 1 child in 5 dies before age 5.
It is not normal for children to die from diarrhea and pneumonia and from immunizable diseases. Families accept child deaths as normal. Child is born, children die. And there has to be a change in attitude. These deaths are not necessary. They don't have to happen.
As long as they do, women will stay pregnant most of their adult lives to ensure enough survivors. The average family in Nepal has 6 children. It is common practice to become pregnant soon after giving birth, even though it endangers the health of mother and infant.
After having a baby, the women do not realize that it takes time to recuperate to become healthy. I think that husbands usually want another child right away, and the wives simply go along with that.
If the gap between 2 children is less than 24 months, the chance of the first or the second child dying becomes almost the double.
All of these children are being born in an environment of poverty, where food is a prized possession. 6 months of the year are called the hungry months, the period before the harvest. In many villages, those who get 1 meal a day feel fortunate. Without nourishment, most of the women in Nepal are anemic, and the children who live inherit.